Yeah, I'm looking right at you, Monster Hunter World. Because, it was on sale, and I have a computer that can run it now, and I never got to play it before, and it's really cool and not a good transition activity. This is Doc Anderson, the Flying Squirrel. Today we're in Microsoft Flight Simulator in Scotland. I want to talk about how I use things like games and flight simulators to get more work done, because piloting your ADHD brain may be the most important skill you ever learn. Today we're digging even deeper into transition activities, what makes a good transition activity, and how do you keep from going down the rabbit hole and losing hours and hours. But first, let's get this plane started. We're flying the Savage Cub. Isn't very complicated. Make sure the fuel valve is open, turn on the magnetos, and turn her over. One of the best ways to keep a transition activity short is to do a short activity. So our route today is the shortest ongoing scheduled commercial flight in the world. It takes us from Westray east to Papa Westray, distance 2 nautical miles, flight time approximately 1.5 minutes. So let's get things going. Everything's clear. Trim is set, parking brake off. Give it a little throttle. And off we go. I think it's going to take longer to taxi and take off than to do the rest of the entire flight. A transition activity does a couple of things. First, it helps us clear our brain of attention residue, so we can go from one thing to another more easily. Second, it creates dopamine, sometimes called the motivation neurotransmitter. ADHD brains have lower dopamine levels and fewer dopamine receptors, so activities that light up our brains are very important. But dopamine generation lies square in the middle of our brain's pleasure center, so it can be very easy to lose ourselves and get swept away in the moment, only to suddenly realize several hours have passed. That means our choices are important. Avoid potato chip activities that are hard for you to put down. Beware the dreaded just one more turn. And you want it to be challenging enough to be interesting, but not overly difficult, because we want to farm dopamine, not adrenaline. Watch out for games that are designed to keep you playing longer, with timers, delay mechanics, grinding, intricate crafting systems, and other rewards for continued play. Or games with long boss fights where you can't save or cut things short. Plus, you might not want to use that brand new shiny game you just got, because they have a stronger gravitational pull and will probably suck you in. Yeah, I'm looking right at you, Monster Hunter World. Because, it was on sale, and I have a computer that can run it now, and I never got to play it before, and it's really cool and not a good transition activity. Okay, we've taxied all the way to the end of the runway and turned around and ready to go. Parking brake off. And this is your captain speaking. We're going to be flying at an altitude of, I'm going to be lucky if we get up to like 500 feet. So let's just sit back and enjoy the flight. Well, that was it, folks. We're approaching our destination, Papa Westray Airport. Like I said, it took longer to taxi and take off than to make the entire trip, and I think it's going to take me longer to set up to land than it took to get here. Wow, that is a tiny runway. Wonder if I could land no, that's a rabbit hole I do not need to go down. Keep my mind on my flying, and we're going to bring it around over the end of the island here and set up for an approach. Another thing to consider when you're choosing a transition activity is to be aware of things that eat up time and take longer than you think they will. For instance, booting up this flight simulator takes a long time. And as ADHDers, we often have difficulty accounting for setup and cleanup time. Ideally, you also want something with a clear beginning, middle, and end to signal, okay, I'm done now. And you want to avoid the perfection trap. I've got to get this just right before I quit. And before you know it, another hour's gone by. Okay, we're setting up on final. Probably would have been quicker to make a left right after takeoff and come to the end of the island and turn for approach, but I've never landed here before, so I didn't know what to expect and kind of wanted to get a look at things. This may become one of my go-to flight plans when I need something really quick. But I want to hear from you. What are things that you're naturally drawn to that light up your brain and get the dopamine going? How can you use those to create momentum? What kinds of things do you need to be aware of to keep from going down the dreaded rabbit hole? Let me know in the comments below. Okay, let's see just how gently I can put this down. And two-wheel landing on the front. Bring the tail down. Do not need to ground loop. Tail draggers are just lovely that way. Okay, dance on the rudder. We're good. We're good. We're good. Okay. Taxi to parking. And this airport is so small, one airplane could be a traffic jam. But I'm glad you came along with me. And if this has been useful to you, then please do me a favor, like and subscribe so I'm not just talking into the void. It'll also make a difference because it'll train the algorithm to show this kind of content to others who need it. And click the bell to be notified when new videos come out because our ADHD goldfish brains often forget. And you can't forget what you don't have to remember in the first place. Shut everything down. Magnetos. There we go. This is Doc Anderson, the Flying Squirrel. Thank you for coming along today. Remember, practice makes progress not perfect, and piloting your ADHD brain takes practice. Oh God, this is a mistake. I regret everything.